Hey there, everybody. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of Album Homework Assignment. It's Sunday. We've got in the house Lewis, Nasser, and Jim Bacchi. How are you guys?
All right.
Doing
Cool.
great, man. Thank you for having me and for having us.
Yeah,
Thank you
thank you.
both for willing to take part in this fun little program we do here on the channel. So they have each had their assignments for about 2 weeks, and I'm very anxious to see what they've given each other and what they have to say about them. So as always, let's do a little funny thing. I pointed at myself. That's not going to work. All right. Jim goes first. So Jim, what were you given by Lewis, and what do you have to say about it?
I was given, I might not pronounce this right, Luz de Riata,
Yeah.
Cuentos y Fabulas, Volume 3, which is Stories and Fables, Volume 3.
That's correct.
And so we've had this for about 2 weeks, but I only got the album like a week ago because I didn't.
Yeah,
So I had to cram a little bit. So Lewis, you play in this band now, huh?
I do, but I did not participate in that making of that album. I joined for the tour
For the
in
tour. And
2016.
so let me ask you, like, there's a lot of instrumentation on this record, and then I watch some videos, and sometimes there's 4 guys, sometimes there's 6. Like, what's the deal with, like, does this band a revolving, changing,
Yeah.
ever-changing thing?
So the main guy is Ramses Luna, who is the guy that plays the saxophone and the wind MIDI and all the triggers, all the board. So he's the main guy, and then at its inception, it was a 4-piece, and then it became a trio, and then as he went through a part in his life where he was living part-time in Mexico and part-time in Chile with his wife and daughter, then he would form a band in Chile with people who were there, and then he would have people in Mexico. And as one of the things that the guy does a lot is this thing called sound painting, which is invented by an American guy, but I am, of course, not remembering his name because I'm old, and this is what we have. Another case of the olds. But essentially, he conducts you, and there are rules. So he'll make movements that will tell you the key. He'll tell you when to play, when not to play. Tempos, things, and he will do this for various people, and you just sort of create music on the spot for an ensemble, and that can be whoever he invited. I've done shows in Mexico with him where there's, like you said, 6 or 7 people on the stage, including a second bass player, and we've done shows where it's just a 4-piece. So it really depends on the personnel. He put together a band for that tour that was myself, Aaron Geller on guitar, and there was a student from Colombia called Brandon Cameron playing drums. So we went out as a 4-piece and did that tour. And it's always different, and it's always, you never really know what to expect, but it's always fun. So
Right. Okay, yeah, because I was just trying to get a grip on, because right off the bat, it's definitely off of my reservation in terms of what I normally listen to. It's really super. So this band, at least this record, is very avant-garde. It's like jazz. It's got funk. It's got rock. There's a lot of note clashing. It's like tension chords and tension notes. And I'm just like listening to, there's so much instrumentation. And then I looked and I saw that he plays a MIDI wind instrument.
yes.
So he could trigger a lot of sound. So like, there's so many sounds in this record. I'm like, all right, who's playing what? And sometimes there's like 3 different keyboard parts and there's a horn section. And I'm like, how the hell do they do this? I was really kind of confused, but it's very confusing because I'm just like, is this a band or is it a studio project? Or but you play live. So
yeah.
Okay, how does this work? But anyway, I kind of went song by song and listened. And it's definitely not for your casual music listener. It's very like the cool thing about it is not none of the musicians are shredders. It's like not a lot of shredding. It's more like soundscapey, like almost like it's a lot of it's very soundtracky and kind of like a stream of consciousness. When he see it makes sense when you said that. Oh, he kind of puts a bunch of people on stage and just tells them to play what key it is, because it sounds improvised, a lot of it. And is that the case with the band? Is it?
So for some of those songs, they do have fixed structures.
Yeah.
So like Play Ball and those songs, like they're very much, the way we do them live is kind of the same way that they're on the record.
Yeah.
But that's only true for the first 5 or 6 songs.
Okay.
Then, but that's, the show can be very much up in the air, right?
Right.
And so yeah, I mean, there are some fixed structure, like with most improvising, you know where you're going, right?
Right.
Somebody has to hold down the fort, right? And then people go nuts.
Yeah.
And that's usually Ramses who's either directing or going nuts. This is how it goes, right? And you just have to keep up. So through the years, I have learned to anticipate how he plays, and I'm able to sit with him, and it's really a lot of fun. But you are right, it is. When I was trying to transcribe that record to learn how to play it, it was really, really difficult because
I was like, how do you even remember this?
So,
do you have music out in front of you, or how? I mean, how does that work?
I transcribed it, and then I just woodshed it until I could play it without thinking about it. I could just sort of feel it, but it took a while, right? And we did that tour. And when you're on stage, though, there is a method to his madness. Once you do that work, you sort of get it, and then you can just play it. But it's otherwise, yeah. At the beginning, me and Aaron were like, "What the hell is this?" Right? we had to sort of figure out, and the main thing that Ramses would tell us was that he didn't want us to replicate exactly the record. We were just supposed to do our own interpretation of these songs. So we just used these as a scaffolding, and then we played, right? So
okay,
that was kind of what happened. And like if you see any video from that tour, I think there's a big one when we played at the Kennedy Center. The songs do not sound exactly as on the record, but you can tell they're the same songs.
Right.
So.
Okay, so it's fluid.
Yes, it is fluid.
To me like it is, because I was like, there's no way you could sit down and just make this up like as a strict, like, okay, it's going to go like this. It's really all over the place. So I went song by song. I will say I didn't care for the vocalist. I know he's the vocalist. So I didn't like the songs with the vocals that much. I like the instrumental parts of them, but I didn't care for the singing. So those songs I didn't like very much. But the overall, it's weird because so much of it feels like there is an aim to make the listener uncomfortable, because there's so much sonic and melodic tension in this stuff. You kind of keep, I think the goal is to keep the listener off guard, looking over his shoulder and uncomfortable. Like a lot of the record is like that. So it's kind of like, that's why it would be great, like for soundtracks for like scary stuff. And, it's a lot of it's really tense. So, and I, to the point where a lot of it just makes me want to run for the nearest Partridge Family album and just put on something happy and go, yeah, okay, I can get back to this now.
Right.
But I mean, the musicianship is obviously great. So I went through the songs. So like Play Ball, like you said, that one had had kind of a structure and a really neat groove to it and cool bass line. And when he went into his, like after the main theme starts, he went into the like sax solo. It almost had that feeling like in So What by Miles, when he breaks into his trumpet solo, it's very solitary. And I kind of got that same feeling from the sax solo he did, because all of a sudden everything kind of dropped out and it was just the bass and the drums and the sax going. I guess it's a soprano he's playing.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Now he has a little thing in it, so he's got a pickup, and he can trigger the synth from it.
Right. But like those parts where he's just playing sax, it's like he's really doing some kind of outsidey type of stuff. And it reminded me of that, like in So What, when the song kicks in and Miles goes into his trumpet solo, was very much reminded me of that. So that was pretty cool. So, and like a lot of horns in that song. I'm like, how are they doing this live? But I guess that doesn't matter. It's like, I'm just there to listen to what it is. So that was a cool song. And going to number 2, sorry, I can't pronounce these.
I can translate for you if you want.
Alley of Equality is what I did. All the translations. That's what it.
Yes.
Callejón de
Igualdad. Okay, that's actually the name of a side street in downtown Mexico City.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, that was a trippy one. It had a kind of a weird, like waltzy kind of thing, and they used some accordion sounds in there. I was like, they're all over the place with the sounds. It's really wild. But that was cool that it kind of had this kind of swingy, waltzy thing going. That was a cool song. Number 3, 10 Times We Shall Overcome. That was, I liked the music, but I didn't care for the vocals. So the vocals kind of put me off. I didn't like the singing. Usually on instrumental albums, I don't want to hear vocals. And this album is mainly instrumental. And it's like, he does some really weird vocal stuff. So I wasn't too crazy about that. Music was cool and very disturbing. Like I said, a lot of this stuff is very just like, you kind of got a cold chill on your shoulder when you listen to it.
Jarring is probably the word for it, right? Jarring.
Yeah, it's a little bit jarring. There's so much tension, tension notes, stuff that's like sort of atonal, but musical at the same time. And it's just very tense. And that definitely has that. The next song, Monkeys on White Elephants. All of this is in Spanish. Monkeys on White Elephants.
Yes.
I like the Middle Eastern vibe it kind of kicks off with. Yes. Super cool. And there's a lot of, again, weird instrumentation in this. And it's another one that has kind of a weird kind of slow waltz to it. That was trippy. That was a cool one. And let's see, The Final Frontier. It's weird. Again, with the tension, some of the horn parts sounded like slightly out of tune with each other. And it was like, it causes this kind of like again, musical tension. It had a cool groove and, a neat atmosphere to it. But the first thing I noticed, like the horns at the very beginning, I'm like, horns are a little bit out of tune. I wonder if that's on purpose.
You know what it is? I identified it on the tour. He has this Boss harmonizer, the harmonizer 8 pedal.
Okay.
And he doesn't always tweak it to the right key. That's what it is. So I figured out, because I had the same problem when I was trying to listen to this. I'm like, am I in? Am I out? What am I doing here? Right?
Yeah, it was weird.
Yeah. And it's the harmonizer pedal. So the trick is you got to listen to the clean sound.
Yeah.
That's the thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I was like, is he doing this on purpose? Like, because like I said, the whole thing is very avant. So it's definitely not for your average, just turn on the radio type of person. There's a lot of weird stuff going on. I was like, okay, interesting. The next one, Satan Carry On.
So yeah, Satan Carroña. That guy is a cartoon character from a newspaper in Mexico.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And there was one other one that was a standout track to me. Because this one almost sounded like, it's very Zeppelin-ish, but with the set, it's sort of like John Coltrane playing over Kashmir.
That's a great way of putting it.
Yeah, it was like, because it got this cool kind of real slow, kind of hypnotic Zeppelin-y thing, and then he goes into the solo, and it's like, this is like Coltrane over Kashmir. It's very interesting. A lot of weird sounds. The drumming was great in this one, and just a nice slow, some heavy guitar and stuff. That was one of my standout tracks on this record. So going to the next one, The Sky Is Not the Limit. I noticed a lot of cool instrumentation. You had like some harpsichord, like mandolin sounds, koto sounds.
Yeah.
That was a neat song. Just on the instrumentation alone, I was like, oh, that's cool. And he's triggering all this right from his.
That's right. He's using a synth for all
Yeah,
that.
it just seems like he's just like going through the. That sounds cool. That sounds cool. Oh, let's put that on there. It's kind of an interesting idea to just play with your instrument, but trigger any sound.
A lot of it is a combo of an H9.
Oh.
An H9, an Eventide H9 pedal. That's like the brain of all the effects.
Okay, yeah.
And then he sometimes uses, like I said, the harmonizer, or for a while he had that the EHX pedal, the sitar pedal. He had that, which he used a lot in the White Elephants and the Monkeys.
Right. Yeah, super cool.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about like completely like losing your limitation musically on, sonically.
Yes.
That's what makes it like, is this a band? Is it a studio project? Because who's playing what on here? And then once I watched the video, I'm like, oh, I see. He's triggering a lot of this stuff from his horn. So that was really cool. Let's see. Next one I had is, I love this title. Here Among Us, If Your Cat Seeks to Murder You. That's what the translation was.
I need to see that.
Seriously, here among us, comma, here among us, if, comma,
he's got the CD handy. There we go.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. All right. So when you say the way that you would pronounce this, acá entre nos, is a very Mexico City way of saying just between you and me.
Right.
Right.
Oh.
And then it says, if your cat is planning to kill us, ... right?
Oh.
Basically, the picture the end of an evening where you're having your whatever 10th beer, and the cat's looking at you funny, and then you're telling your buddy, listen, it's between us. Your cat tries something, let's see how it goes.
Yeah, because I was like, wow, that's a weird. And I actually went online and because I was trying to translate these, and there was a site that actually has the whole entire album and the translated title. So I'm like, oh, good. Like a lot less work for me to do. But of course, with phrases and dialects and stuff.
That's right.
Yeah, your translation probably makes more sense. Again, another song with a cool groove. Again, really cool, weird, neat instrumentation in the chorus. There's some sort of synth thing that was really cool synth melody. I dug that one. Yeah, but the title alone is worth the wait. So, and let me get to this number 9 is Walk of Resistance.
Yes, very well.
Okay. This was my other standout track. I like this one because it was really kind of atmospheric, and it had a nice tone. It was pretty melodic compared to most of the other stuff, which is kind of that's my thing. I'm into pop and melody. So like I could latch onto those melodies. Really cool, weird solos in this, and some very cool keyboard sounds. And this and Sentan Carry On, those are my favorites on the record. And then last one, Mine. Cool riff. I didn't like the vocals, so the singing is a put off for me. It's very weird singing. Cool guitar solo though. Whoever did the guitar solo was.
I think that was Eduardo Reyes. Yeah.
Yeah.
He played on that one.
Yeah. So yeah, very cool guitar solo. So I got a lot of my questions answered because I was like, who's playing all the instruments? You answered that for me. And overall, other than the vocal tracks, I thought it was a cool record. It's not an everyday listen for me because it's so out there and like at tens at times. I just kind of need. I have to do a couple songs to take a break from it because it was just like, a lot of atonality, musical atonality, but nonetheless. So I thought it was a cool record. I was like, I don't know how. Like I said, you answered my question. I was like, how the hell do you remember how to play these songs live? Yeah,
Right. You just woodshed them until they're tattooed into your brain.
just play the record over and over.
That's right. And then you find yourself on stage and you're not fucking up, and it's all good, right?
And does he change stuff on you when you play?
Yes, like sometimes he will, and then you have to roll, right? This is the whole point. But you know, when you play, you know this very well. When you've been in a band with a person for a while, you learn, you know, sort of how they. Unless you're working with Mike Keneally, then you're on your own. But if you see that guy just so unique that you can't keep up. But
right.
If you are with you know, you learn. Okay, Ramses likes, you know, his G flat augmented chords. He likes these cadences. You know, you can sort of go with them.
Right.
And that's fine, because he's actually, you know, pretty good at creating nice little atmospheric stuff on stage as well.
Yeah.
So he gives a lot of people a lot of room to play, and it's really a nice concert. Like, people go and they leave happy, even though we're hitting them over the head with really, really crazy shit, right?
Well, that's the thing. I was like,
yeah,
I think I'd probably like seeing it better live than listening to the record, because I know that some stuff goes on live that doesn't happen on the record, and just to see a band do that kind of stuff, I was like, this is probably a really cool band to see live. So I don't know if you ever come to out this way, but if you do, let me know.
I'll definitely let you know.
I want to see you play.
Yeah, man, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I know on when Lewis was on the show last time, I think, and I don't remember the album you were given, but you made a similar type of a statement. Whereas, like, you know, on album, this is pretty good. I don't know if I would listen to this all the time, but I would love to go see this live. Right?
That's right. That was on the Death by Death. Or yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah. I would definitely go see that band live happily.
Yeah.
But I would never play the record.
Yeah. I think that's, well, I wouldn't say that about this. I'm curious. Does this guy get any soundtrack work? Because it's like,
he does get a lot of people hire him to do things, and you know, he does a lot of teaching. So he teaches younger people how to play, or he'll go to prisons and he'll teach, you know, the inmates how to make sounds and do things like that. So he's a guy who's up and about. He's definitely working it, and yeah, he's a very interesting guy. I think you would like him. Ramses is
I would like to see it live, because I'm just like, I could imagine, you know, like almost like myself in like 1991 or 2, walking into some club in New York City and seeing a band like this, because there was a lot of people doing kind of weird stuff back then. Like, this reminds me of something I would have seen like in the 90s, like going into some club in Manhattan. Because it's so out there, man. It is so outside. Like there's no choruses really. There's kind of choruses, but it's more like they're pieces rather than songs.
Yes, I think what you said is very, very true. Ramses does not like to be pigeonholed. He does not like to play, you know, in Mexico we say we don't play to the gallery, I guess is the translation.
Right.
So it's more like he just wants to put out some stuff.
Right.
And I thought, I wanted you to hear it, because I thought that you would, you know, I was very interested in hearing it.
It's cool. I like the fact that nobody's really shredding.
Right.
You know, even when they go into their solos, like it's not super shreddy. It's just weird. You know, it's not like, look at how fast I could play. Look at how many scales. It's like, scales be damned. I'm going to go in and out of scale. And you know, none of it's super shreddy or fast. It's just, you know, like I said, like again, in that, like in Play Ball, when he goes into his sax, it's like, this really reminds me of So What from Kind of Blue, you know, just very solitary, very this lonely sax with this bass and drum thing. Is like, I can see what he's going for there, because he's kind of playing some weird stuff, kind of like Miles. And that's there's that undercurrent of that of that really kind of outside the box jazz.
That's right.
But then there's some rock and there's some real heaviness. So it's an interesting record. It was a cool record. I would like to see it live. So
it also begs the question, Jim. So would you consider picking up a copy of this, or maybe something you would listen to online occasionally, or would you kind of like maybe forget all about it after today's exercise?
I'd probably stream it. I spend most of my money, as you could see, on instruments. So I buy less records. So streaming's kind of good for that. But I would listen to it. It is cool. It's cool.
I'll send you a copy.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
So Louis, if you could, since you have the CD there, could you hold it up and just say the name of the band and the album once again?
Yes, it has the plastic, but so there's a glare. But the name of the band is Luz de Riada, which means a flood of light. And the album is.
I was looking for the meaning of that. I couldn't find.
Yeah,
it.
it's a flood of light, and it's Tales and Fables Volume 3. Volume 1 was the original one I sent you. Was the first one. It's a little less experimental. I didn't have it, and they don't have it on Bandcamp. And Volume 2 is a collection of their touring they did in between the albums in Argentina and Chile. And that's where you can see, of course, there's different people in all of these records, right?
Yeah. Well, I found this on Apple Music. So
yeah,
I did look it up on Apple Music, and they have all the other ones on Apple Music too. Okay. Just for some reason I couldn't find the first one you sent.
Yeah, the first one is when they put it out, they were not into all these services. So, but yeah, the first one, I mean, the set that we do is mostly stuff from the first record, from this one, and we just wrote a new one in the summer that we're just finishing up now. So
how do you record the stuff yourself at home, or do you go down there to do it, or?
Well, no, the way that for this you got to play it live, right? So we basically went down there, and I spent a couple of weeks there, and every day we would just get together in the morning and start writing and jamming and coming up with ideas, and everything would be recorded. And then in the evenings, while everybody was drinking beer, I was transcribing everything and trying to piece it together. So then the next morning we had the song from the other day, and we just run through it a couple of times, and then that was set, and then we'd start with a new one. And we went like that. And so we're almost done with it. I'm planning to go back to finish it, but we recorded 6 full tracks. They're a little chunky, so it's good.
And what would you say compared to this? What's different about it? What's similar?
I think it's a little bit more structured. There's more of the Satan Carroña element than, let's say, I mean, we did bring it down a little bit in terms of, let's just make sure that there's more space and people can really hear the stuff. And it's just we recorded as a 3-piece.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So then that creates a lot more room for things. It's not so layered. So yeah.
Cool.
Let's switch gears. So Louis, what were you given from Jim?
All right. I am going to read my notes because I did take detailed notes. So, but I need the old man glasses because without them, I'm hopeless. So what I was given by Jim is an album called The Flame by The Flame. And according to what I could find out about it, this was produced by Carl Wilson of the Beach Boys. This is an old record. I had never heard of it. The personnel is Blondie Chaplin on guitar and vocals, Ricky Fattar, drums and vocals, Steve Fattar on guitar and vocals, and Brother Fattar on bass and vocals, right?
Yeah.
So this was a really, really cool thing that I had I'd never heard of it. So I had no sense of what I was getting into, right? And as I started to listen to it, I realized that, I mean, the first thing I heard, these dudes are very Beatles influenced.
Yeah.
The songs, See the Light is the first one, Soft Distortion, lots of singing. It's a really cool ambient sort of song. But of course, there's a pop sensibility to all of it, right? Then on the second track, it's called Make It Easy, things are turned up a notch in the guitar tone wise. The thing, of course, as I listen to it, you need to understand, I'm listening to it as a guy who comes at it now, right? So a lot of the things these guys were doing, which were new, or as in somewhat innovative. You know, they don't sound like that to me, right?
Right.
So I am hearing, for example, all right, you have that, you know, the syncopation of the 7th, 8th note in the bar, but it has some cool ear candy here and there. It was a cool track. I dug it. Now, when they get to track number 3, Hey Lord, I thought that has a much more interesting vibe. One thing, and this is just the thing for me, right? Just you know, speaking for myself, when music is trying to knock me over the head with saying you need to be happy and you need to enjoy this, it tends to have the opposite effect on me. You know, like I don't necessarily like to be given so many cues. Like I just want the music to take me where it will, right? So I think that for this one, it's trying a little bit less hard to be happy, but then of course the chorus happens, right? And then it gets back to the happy vibe of the previous record. But I thought it had a little bit more interesting use of dissonance, and the instrumental section is kick-ass. I absolutely love that instrumental section, that song. That was great. Then we get to track 4, Lady, and that was more, you know, that, again, it sounds a little bit cliche to me.
Right.
I wasn't particularly keen on that song. But I mean, for my opinion, and I'm not going to comment too much on the lyrics, but I will say that if you really want to get me interested in the song, there's nothing like a girl that knows how to time a fart for perfect comedic effect. And that's not really what we get here, right? But it's all right. Don't Worry, Bill that's track number 5. That is another low energy number ballad. A lot of ooh-wahs and oohs harmonies. It is exactly as it's intended to be. It's just not intended for me, but it's a good song. Track number 6, Get Your Mind Made Up. I like the title. You know, when I read Get Your Mind Made Up, I thought, this is promising. Maybe this is finally the angry song, right? And it is about dealing with the emotional uncertainty of relationships, but it's sung with such a happy vibe that I'm just left a little confused. But it's a good song. Like this is a good band, right? But it's just like, again, I think that when they're not doing that very poppy thing and they just go into instrumental sections, this is where I like the band most. And in this song, they do some cool instrumental sections that I really dug. Track number 7, Highs and Lows. It has a tremendous intro. I love the intro of this song. Then it changes again into the happy burst, right? But then there is this brilliant keyboard break, right? I forget who's a keyboard player. Well, they're not listed in the keyboard, but whoever played the keyboard there killed it. And in a way, again, I'm just giving you my references because this is, you know, I'm dumb and this is what I know, but it reminded me a little bit of the cadence of Something by George Harrison and the Beatles, you know?
Yeah.
I really dug it, and it has a lot of changes, and the ending is wacky. So I would say this is probably my favorite song on the album. Highs and Lows was great. I'm So Happy. The music's pretty good. Really interesting ideas. Again, the lyrics is where they sort of lose me, but I like the song. Dove, which is track number 9, that's a very, you know, that's more of a sad entrance, a little bit of, you know, it's placed twice, is a nice chord progression. And it's okay. It's, again, this is entirely a personal thing. For me, it kind of lands on just the wrong side of the Velveeta line. But this is not a knock on the song. This is just my personal taste, right? It's a good song. Track 10, Another Day Like Heaven. That's the longest song. I like the opening fade in with the keyboards. The title is a little ominous, right? And then it gets into a ballad, right? But the strong suits of this song, again, are the instrumental sections, right? It has a rocking section, which is unexpected, and it really ended strong. I don't know why they felt they had to throw so many ballad sections in so many of their tracks. Again, they have every right to do whatever the hell they want. But for me as a listener, I feel like it would have been cool to just let these guys rock out, you know? Yeah. Because they can do it really well. Like suddenly they're rocking and they're sounding great. And then they go back into the ballady, happy stuff, which is not my jam necessarily. And then the track 11 is a reprise of See the Light, but they sort of played in a looser kind of tempo. Although I have to say the vocals in the reprise are really, really quite good. So overall, I mean, this is how I would describe the record. It's a very Beatles influenced pop record, I would say, but it has a psychedelic vibe, which is kind of cool. You know, I really like that. I had never heard of this band, and I wish that I had heard it a long time ago, because that would allow me to put it in the right context. You know, when I hear it now, it just sounds like, oh, these guys are just copying all this other stuff I've heard, which is probably not fair and not true, right? But this is how it sounded to me, because I just heard it now.
Right.
So it's a good record. I think people who like Beatles, who like that, especially the psychedelic era of the Beatles, would like this record a lot. For me, it was a little bit too much ballady, but it's a good record and it's a good band. I mean, I don't know if they've made more records than this or not. I don't really know very much about them, but this is a good one, and certainly a deep cut, man. You came up with a record that never.
I'll give you the history of this band. So anybody who's most people know Ricky Fataar, who's in the Ruddles.
Right.
So the Flame are basically, I think, three cousins. I think they're all related. They're from South Africa. So this is a record that came out in 1970. The Beach Boys decided they wanted to have a label. They found this band from South Africa. And, you know, imagine in 1970 being a rock band from South Africa. Pretty unusual. You know, the Beatles are obviously the biggest band in the world at that point. And that's kind of, I always call this like the greatest Badfinger record.
There you go.
Because it's Beatlesque, but it sounds a lot, it reminds me a lot of Badfinger because they do rock out a little bit more than the Beatles. But Blondie Chaplin is still a member of the Beach Boys now. He went on to become in the Beach Boys in the after this. And Ricky Fataar, I think, also played with them also, but he was in the Ruddles. So it's kind of like this Beach Boy connection because it was their label. And of course the Beach Boys, you know, could barely function, let alone have a record label. So the band got totally screwed. The guy who plays percussion with me was in Brian Wilson's band for 12 years. And he's talked to Blondie Chaplin and Ricky Fataar about the Flame. Cause you know, if you're into power pop, that's like a really hidden gem. So, and they're still really pissed off about what happened. They're just like, they don't want to talk about it. So I guess they had really high expectations because, you know, they're on the Beach Boys label and all this. And, you know, I can relate. I had a similar situation with my band, you know, just getting the business handed to you. So that's kind of what happened. It was this great record, my opinion, a great record that got made. That's a completely missed opportunity because it was on the wrong label. But interesting that they're from South Africa. You know, they are African. You know, they're black. So
that's cool.
It was an interesting, and you could hear some of the African elements to the, you know, they have congas and things like that. Yes. That are not typical you wouldn't hear on a Beatles record or a Badfinger record. So I like that little bit of influence, a little bit different. It's a little soulful. But yeah, it's a very interesting story that record was, you know, supposed to be really something and it just got completely botched, you know, a lot like Badfinger, but worse, you know.
Yeah, worse.
Yeah. So it's a pretty bad story. And, you know, apparently they're still really pissed off about it.
All these years later.
Years later. I think it's a great record. The first time I was meeting with a producer and he played me Another Day Like Heaven. And the thing that took us when we all listened to it was that, you know, it's this ballad and it has this big explosion in the middle of it. And it goes into that cool kind of groove, rock groove thing that they just kind of fades out on the record.
Right.
I was like, wow, that's a really interesting thing to do to a song like that. So and it was a hard record to find. I think I had to pay like, 20 years ago or so, I had to pay like $40 for the vinyl because it's super rare. Now it's out on CD, but to find a record in the wild, it's they didn't make a lot of them. So I thought it was a neat, because I'm like, what am I going to give somebody that they haven't already heard? That's why I said the Jellyfish records, but you already had them. So
Hey, Jellyfish is, I'm a big fan. I love Jellyfish.
yeah, me too. Yeah, obviously. But I was like, what am I going to give him that's like he hasn't heard?
Well, this worked, man, because it was a really nice find. I'm just saying, I didn't want to come off sounding harsh because I do like the record.
Yeah.
It's just that, it has that happiness to it
Right.
that is not usually in what I listen to or what I play.
Right.
So, and it has that innocence, I guess, or maybe just because at that time that sort of music was sort of still fresh, right?
Yeah.
And they're just trying to put out a positive message. Right? And here I am,
Right.
middle-aged man, very jaded and cynical, and I'm like, listen, man, let's a bit thick. I get it. You're 20 years old. The world's your oyster. It's all good, right? But
Right.
So it sounds, Louis, like this might not necessarily be something you go out and buy, but something you're happy that you heard.
That's right. And I'm happy I have the YouTube links because I can always go back and listen to the songs that I really enjoyed. And there's a couple. And it's an interesting band. And now that I know more about their backstory, it makes me like him even more. Right? Because at first, I didn't even know. I just thought, I guess I didn't do very detailed research at all. But I just thought, oh, this is probably a California band.
Yeah.
But I assume
South Africa.
another California band from the early, late 60s or whatever, and here they go.
Yeah.
And it sounded to me, it had to be that vibe,
Yeah.
Yeah. What's interesting is that you both, I think the aspects of each album that you didn't care for that much, both had to do with the vocals. With Jim, the way the vocals themselves, and I think with Louis, with more the arrangement of the vocals and then the tone of the vocals, right? So that's interesting.
Right. Yeah. Too happy.
Yeah. Too happy and too weird, right?
Yeah. Too happy for you, too weird for me. Like, yeah, this record is good, but it's like it's so weird that I have to listen to it in small chunks, not as a complete work, because it kind of wears me out.
Of course.
The weirdness of it.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I totally.
But I would love to see it live.
Well, man, if we ever get out there, we're definitely giving you a call. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, this was fun. So we have two kind of like, positive in the middle sort of thing right here. So not too bad. So this was fun. I want to thank both of you for doing the homework and digesting these albums and giving a really good description of them. So I think that worked pretty well. So thanks everybody for watching. If you're interested in either album, go check them out and then report back in the comments. Let us know what you think. And visit us on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter. Of course, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. Stay tuned. Hopefully next Sunday. Actually, no, it's holiday, so we won't see an album homework assignment show, I don't think, for about another 2 weeks. But hopefully everybody comes and joins us tomorrow night, where we do our all hands Sea of Tranquility holiday extravaganza in the place of the Hudson Valley Squares tomorrow night. So stay tuned for that. We'll have everybody from In the Prague Sea and Hudson Valley Squares, Guitarist Corner, blah, blah, blah. Everybody who's on the channel who can make it is going to try and join. So that'll be lots of fun. So stay tuned for that. For Jim Bacchi and Louis Nasser and Pete Pardo. Have a good one, everybody.